Welcome everybody to Maximizing Retail Display Success at Walmart, Costco, and Sam's Club. We are slated for an hour. The presentation should take about 30-35 minutes, leaving some time for Q&A. We will try to be as respectful of your time as possible. And if there's anything you want to discuss afterwards, just put it in the chat. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat, and we will address whatever comes to mind. My name is David Schmidt. I'm the President and CEO of TPH Global Solutions. We are a retail packaging and display business specializing in supply chain solutions for U.S. and global brands, selling primarily through Walmart, Costco, and Sam's Club, as well as the big box stores of Home Depot, Lowe's, and other large format retail establishments. What you will hopefully get from today is some insights that we've gleaned over the years that we have found our profitability sucks, that leaks in where you may not have realized you were throwing money away, and how to maximize those opportunities to make as much money and in the efficiency and operability of your program selling into these large big box stores. So what we will do is take you through a series of scenarios that are reminiscent of experiences that we've had over the years in the retail domain for our brand clients, and give you that insight that you can take back to your folks and get the benefit of what we've learned over the years. You should have tangible results from this conversation. And what I will, a little shameless plug on TPH. We've been in business since 1965. Our team today is made up of retail experts that have, on the low end, been with us for 17 years, and on the high end, 32 years. We are fully knowledgeable in most of the retail environments and their requirements, expectations, and guidelines, as well as what the buyers need to hear at the earliest phases of conversations to help our clients maximize their opportunities to get an order, to maximize their sales, maximize the profitability. And you will find that working with TPH, we have no account reps to filter your questions, and that this allows us to bring the expertise right to you and empowers you with urgent, informed answers to your immediate needs. So with that, let's get started. We advocate that our clients take a holistic view of their supply chain, their program, their order flow at the design phase. So when you start, one of the earliest mistakes that we've found that occur is that you have a product, it's a great product, and you want to sell it into a Walmart, Costco, Sam's, or whatever retail target you have, but this product wasn't designed for that retail channel. So it's not really optimized to sell efficiently. And all the other aspects of getting this product from the manufactured source to the store floor are not efficient. You will probably have what we would characterize as a lumpy order flow with a variety of issues that crop up along the way, and limit your opportunity for maximizing your profitability and your sales success. An example of this is we have a handbag client that has a vibrant online presence and store-in-store or shop-in-shop presence, and started selling their products into Costco. And when you sell into a Costco, you have a maximum footprint allowable that you can work with. And since this is an international produced product, you have limits in what you can put on a pallet, what you can put on a display, what you can put in a container, how it flows through the entire system. And so the first several orders for this client and this particular product were lumpy. And we have been working together to rethink how we approach this opportunity. We have the relationship with Costco now. And now what we're doing is looking at how we can make our products, and I say our because we are so invested with our clients that we approach this not as an us and them, but as a we and our. So how do we make our products flow through as efficiently, as optimized, as productively, with the best probability for maximizing our profits? And that's a conversation that we advocate should take place at the design phase as you're thinking about it, not after you've talked to the retailer and pitched a bunch of your products. But if you have to start with existing products into this retailer, and that's what starts the relationship, then you take your lumps, but you recognize that there's an opportunity to further improve and optimize as you grow the relationship and you move forward from there. But we will tell you empirically that you will find most people miss this opportunity from the outset to design in profitability. Other areas, as you're designing your products and your packaging and how your presentation at retail, is you miss on what the retailer's sustainability and eco messages. So you'll find in most of the big box and mass market stores, they have sustainability strategies and targets and plans. Walmart, for example, has their Project Gigaton, where they are looking to remove all plastic packaging by 2025. They've actually tried to implement some of that this year. And so it's not just about recycle, reduce, and reuse, it's about eliminate. And so if you're coming to market and presenting your product to the buyers in a plastic packaging, but they're already in their minds and their strategies, their global plans, moving away from that, you are not in alignment with them. You've missed the boat right before you've even had a chance to sell your product. So we encourage our clients to make sure they're clear-headed about what the goals and strategies of the retail target that you're selling through are, not just the consumer product targets, so that you're in alignment as you flow through and capitalize on your order opportunity. I touched a little bit in the first slide of design about optimizing. It's something that you don't realize has an impact on you in terms of your profitability, but we had a footwear client who we designed all the packaging displays around the prior year's product, and the prototypes were consistent with prior year product. But when mass production came out, the product required that we expand the packaging by 1/4 inch in width. And when we did that, the number of products on the display went from 135 units to 120 units. And over the course of 1 million pairs of footwear, it ended up costing the client roughly $250,000 straight off the bottom line. And it put the entire supply chain and every stakeholder in the process through a fire drill to make the adjustments, to meet the timelines, to get the product to market, just to be able to sell. And that could have been avoided had we been focusing on the max, meeting the from the where we designed the product, the packaging and the product initially to production. There was a failure. There was a mistake in what came out of mass production versus prototyping, and those types of things need to be rigorously challenged as you go through your order flow, so that you can not be in a situation where you lose $250,000. When you start to conceptualize what you want to do as far as your retail channel strategy, and you start to identify where you want to sell your products, you will inevitably say, I want to sell my product at Walmart. I want to get on the floor at Costco, or I want to get to Home Depot or some other retailer. And as you start to do that, how you prepare, what you bring to that conversation is really critical. And a little technical difficulty, bear with me for a second. So there we go. So what we recommend, what we've seen is clients who've gone to a meeting with, they got their meeting with the buyer, but they didn't know what they needed to know before they went to meet with the buyer. And just like in the design phase where you can design in quality and you can design in profitability, when you're preparing your pitch for with the buyer, you can start to build in maximum opportunity for success, maximum profitability by being prepared in what you prepare with and how you go in front of them. So failing to do that is a mistake. And we see that quite frequently. So we advocate that you prepare your presentation around a complete data set, imagery, shoppability, market analysis, logistics and load plans, and understand what your total cost structure is. Really have a complete and solid grasp on your numbers, not just on what your product cost is, but on the entire supply chain, and also the competitive landscape, what the market is for products in your category, your competitive products elsewhere, what the price points are, so that you come to the conversation fully informed. Part of what we would bring to the conversation would be to help you with that data is to design your packaging and displays in a way that, and imagery that when you go in front of them, everything is fully compliant with the retailer and their guidelines, and you know exactly what you can, how you can merchandise and market your product in the store, in any location, anywhere, and so that as you're having the conversation with the buyer, you're already showing them that you've digested what their requirements are, you've done your homework, you're essentially saying to them, hey, I'm invested in you, please invest in me. And it has been a very successful strategy for our clients to take that approach. We've also seen where people get in front of the buyer and they're very excited about their product. They're very excited about the opportunity to sell into the retailer. And they don't use that opportunity and time in front of the buyer to ask them, to engage them with questions and ways to help better focus your presentation, but also to help guide the conversation and help guide you in what you put together in your final submission for the retailer. The best program that will achieve success and profitability, so that when you get through the first order, what you're really trying to get through is to the larger follow-on orders and the relationship with that retailer. Because nobody's going to make money on the first order. You want to have a relationship with the retailer that will last years and that they can rely on you to bring in a quality product. So among the questions that we really advocate people ask, it's really important you understand what are the success metrics that the buyer and the retailer are looking for, what are the performance indicators for a successful test that will give them the confidence that your product and you as a supplier can successfully navigate the complicated systems of getting your product from your manufacturing source to their store floor. Because once you understand what their decision-making metrics are, you can literally design what you put into the store, and you can game the system to help improve your performance within those metrics. And that's for another conversation. But it's really critical that if you don't ask questions, if you don't engage the buyer, you won't have an opportunity to learn and to shape and to improve the probability for your success. I mentioned a second ago about nobody makes money on the first orders. Frequently, what we see in these large big box and club store opportunities is that your first order is going to be anywhere from 10 to 32 pallets. And it's going to be spread out in a region or in a variety of locations so that the retailer can get data and determine how your product will perform. And from that, they will make their follow-on ordering decisions. And this is where those success metrics come into play in understanding how are they evaluating your performance. Is it just on a straight sell-through percentage? Is it on dollars per square foot or dollars per square foot over a given amount of time? We actively advocate that our clients not look at this as a P&L opportunity, as a profit opportunity, but as a marketing investment. You would participate in a trade show and spend $30,000 on a booth and maybe get a bunch of leads, but not necessarily get an order. But in this situation, you're actually working within the order framework. Your odds of getting a return on this investment are much higher than if you spent it advertising through SEO online or as your in a trade show opportunity or having a sales force go out and make cold calls. This is the most direct opportunity to get a return on investment. So approaching it and making decisions based on profit as opposed on what's the most effective investment I can make to maximize my opportunity at this retailer, to grow my relationship and expand my opportunity to get into as many stores as possible, is the mindset that we advocate for, because those people that go into it with that mindset have the greatest success and have the longest relationships with these retailers. Another mistake we see brands make is they throw too much at the shopper, or they put the product in front of the shopper in a way that once it's been shopped the first time, the product gets put back in a way that it's disorganized and hard to shop for follow-on shoppers. And so how you develop your planogram, how many SKUs and colors and styles and sizes and genders that you put in front of the consumers, how difficult you make it for them to find the product that they want to find is something that directly impacts your success at retail and the success of your program. So we recommend that you be mindful as you're preparing your presentation to the buyer, you be mindful of how the shopper is going to engage your product, not just see your product and see it on the floor, but are you going to make it easy for them to find the size, style, and color that they're looking for? Or is it going to be something where they have to spend time digging through a messy, dumped display or a poorly organized, or the thought wasn't there for the consumer, again, to make it easy for them to find their product. So this is something that creeps up on people because even the best displays and the best organized programs can be negatively impacted by how the display gets shopped and how often it gets reblocked and reorganized, and whether or not the retailer will do that for you, or do you have to deploy resources to help that along the way. Something to consider as you're building your budgets and how to maximize your probability of success. Another area where our clients have overlooked their, they've taken for granted certain opportunities is when they overestimate their capacity, or they don't completely have a grasp on what their supply chain can do to meet the order flow that is in front of them. So when you're dealing with a program for Walmart, you could be looking at an order volume of 500,000 to a couple million units that has to flow over a period of months. And making sure, and if you've got a variety of sizes and colors and genders, and you're selling it to them pre-packed and fulfilled, then it's a very complicated order flow. So it's important that your supplying partners are able to not just keep up for manufacturing a single unit and manufacturing a total number of units, but they need to be able to manufacture the variety of units in the frequency that you can pack and load and ship and distribute and get it to the store and maintain your timeline. The best example we can give is when a client is looking at, a brand is looking at going from e-com, say Amazon, where they sell one-to-one. So they send their product bulk into an Amazon distribution center or their own 3PL, and they get an order online and it's for one or even five, and they pack it up and they send it out. But when you sell to a mass market retailer, you are literally drinking from a fire hose, and how you manage that flow and make sure you're able to stay on top of that has to be front and center before you even get in front of the buyer and before you are overcommitting yourself to something where you are setting yourself up to fail. So it's important to recognize what is at risk if you haven't done your due diligence on your overall manufacturing capability based on the complexity of the order that you potentially could be getting into with that buyer and that retailer. So an example of where you can get hung up is you've done your due diligence on your supply chain, and You think they've proven everything right. Everything looks good. You've mapped out your order flow. And you've got your commitments. You've got your order from the retailer. You've given your order to the vendor. You're going from prototyping to mass production, and everything looks good, except all of a sudden you're, 3 weeks in, and you find out that a component of your product is delayed because a sub vendor of your vendor, which you didn't know about, is located halfway across the country. Or if in this case, we're using China as an example, and you're a couple provinces away, and you didn't realize that there's a whole other logistics component and sourcing component that's out of your realm of control. So putting on your radar, when you're doing your due diligence on your vendors, it's not enough to know that they have the capacity to produce the quantity of units. You need to drill in and understand where their finished good and all the parts that for their finished good are coming from, what the relationship is, what the capability of those sub-vendors, if there are sub-vendors, what control they have, how frequently have they ordered from them, what's the distance involved, what are your risks? And that's something that has caught people short, that until you've experienced it, you wouldn't realize it was out there. Another thing that pops up is in large siloed organizations that are multidisciplined, in that you have a design department, you've got a sourcing department, you've got sales, you've got the domestic office, we've got the what they call demand management and the account relationship part. You've got the overseas office and the QA, QC sourcing, and then you've got the manufacturer, the factory that you're actually working with. And we see frequently where brands are of an expectation that they issue their PO to their factory, everything's going to go the way it's supposed to go, going to get to where it's supposed to get to, and it's sort of the fingers crossed method of order flow. What we advocate is for brands and large organizations to set up a multidiscipline team, have those roles very clearly defined, who's the champion to lead the program and manage the agenda, make sure that all stakeholders are properly engaged, and maintain or hold regular check-ins. We do it on a weekly basis for our global programs, where we have everybody on a global program from the US and Asia on a call weekly to go through every aspect of every element and make sure that everything is going according to plan. And there is an active managed process to making sure that that program will flow appropriately. It's also really important that you not outsource your quality control or specification management or the team that's going to make sure that what you ordered and what your customer is expecting is what's being produced. And so that gets back to that miss between prototyping and production. That would get back to materials management. That would get back to components being outsourced and not being available on time. You have to maintain an active managed process to make sure that these complicated global programs get into the store on time, all in the context of maximizing your success and, constantly maximizing your opportunity with that retailer. Another area that catches people short is they don't understand how their product is going to flow from the manufactured source to the store floor. They don't understand how it's going to be staged, how it's going to be stored, what environmental risks are in place in terms of moisture, heat, cold, transportation damage, when the product is stored, how is the product going to be stored in the warehouse? How is it going to be handled? Is it going to be handled with forklifts or clam trucks? And not preparing for all of the rigors of distribution and handling so that your product arrives alive and you have that aha moment. So it's really critical that you have a soup to nuts understanding of how your product's going to flow from the source country to the store floor, and how it's going to be handled, whether you're handling it through your own internal or outsourced resources, or the retailer and how their DCs are going to handle it, or the shipping container companies and the ports and your freight forwarder. It's important you understand all of that. The other thing to keep an eye out for in this category is just understanding what can happen logistically and understanding that around holidays or global conflicts, how that can disrupt the transportation of your product and possibly delay it by weeks or months. So right now there's conflict in the Red Sea, and that has put a 2 to 6 week delay on products traveling through the Red Sea. We've seen fresh water shortages in the Panama Canal, which have limited the number of ships that can travel through the canal, also adding delays. So being aware and having this on your peripheral vision as you're planning, and you're planning your timelines so you can make sure that you don't miss the opportunity. And if you're somebody who works around the Chinese New Year, understanding that even though the holiday starts maybe on the 1st, ports typically will close a week before, and people might miss their opportunity to get on a boat. There might not be boats or spaces available, bookings available, things to that. And the last category is what we call unpleasant surprises, things you could never dream that you'd have to think about. So retailers today are increasingly getting more stringent on how they test products that go in. They test for chemical compliance. They test for source compliance. They make sure that they fit within the state and local requirements. An example is we have a footwear product that the labeling for the footwear didn't match the tested results of the materials, and so the product had to be pulled and relabeled to conform so that they were consistent. That was a costly delay, not just in time, but the rehandling, the rework. You end up adding a level of risk for quality because you're removing something and adding something, the extra handling, possible dirt, crush, whatever, higher waste. That's something you want to avoid. One that I learned about this year, never dreamed that this would be an issue, but cotton coming out of Asia, if there's a way to test the DNA of the cotton and the seed that the cotton comes from. And if the DNA is consistent with the source DNA coming out of the Uyghur region of China, the U.S. has banned that, and you could have made all your products using that cotton, not knowing where the source DNA came from, and you could have ended up losing the whole program right there. Or you're well into your approvals with the buyer, and it's a new relationship with the retailer. Excuse me. And the buyer says, "Oh, I need to see your factory audits to make sure that they're approved factories for our requirements." And that if the factory itself doesn't have existing audits for that retailer that they've been approved on, then you would have to go and spend upwards of $20,000 to $30,000 and lose 2 months to get a factory audited, remediated, and up to speed, and possibly miss your window in that opportunity. So this conversation was built around a series of experiences we've had over the last, I'd say, 15, 18 years that have been profitability killers. And I want to thank everybody who has joined us, and we'll open it up to questions. You can use the chat feature to list your questions. And also wanted to let you know that we will be doing more webinars in our series coming up later in the year. Next, we'll be working on a more focused approach on the supply chain optimization. And we'll also be working on how to expand your retail channel opportunities so that you can diversify your retail channels and expand your sales. And last, I want to offer to anybody on the call a complimentary retail audit where we would provide you with an assessment of a current program that you're working on, and that would take you from design through delivery, and it would give you an overview of areas where you are either at risk of potential loss of profitability or you are at risk of delay, and we would be happy to share those insights with you free of charge.